In the glittering ballrooms of 19th century England, a talented musician defies society by playing her heart instead of her ambition. When her forbidden melody scandalizes the nobility but captures the attention of a brilliant naturalist, she must decide, will she compose a life of genuine passion or return to the safe confines of acceptable society? The great hall of Oakwood Manor shone with 50 candles on this cold winter night. Men in fine black suits and women in colourful dresses filled the room. In a small corner behind a red curtain, Clara Hill waited with her old violin. Her plain brown dress had been washed 3 times to look its best, but still seemed dull next to the rich silks around her. "Remember, girl," said Lady Oakwood with a tight smile, "play only the songs on this list. The Duke likes things proper and in order." She handed Clara a paper with 10 song names. 5 silver coins when you finish. Now go." Clara stepped out from behind the curtain. Her hands shook as she felt the eyes of rich people turn to her. The Duke of Westfield sat in a tall chair at the head of the room. His face looked hard, like it had never smiled. Clara put her violin under her chin and started to play the first proper dance tune. The music was stiff and boring, but the rich people nodded their heads as they danced in perfect lines across the shiny floor. 1 song became 2, then 3. Clara's fingers moved without thought. In her mind, she was back home in her tiny village, where her mother lay sick in bed. 5 silver coins meant medicine. 5 silver coins meant food for a week. As the 4th song ended, Clara saw a small girl with sad eyes standing near the Duke's chair. The girl looked trapped in her fancy dress, like a bird in a cage. Something in Clara's heart shifted. When she started the 5th song, her bow moved differently. Instead of the proper dance tune on the list, her fingers found the sweet, wild melody her father had taught her before he died. It was a simple farmer's song about freedom and hope. The dancing stopped. Whispers filled the room. The Duke's face turned red as a summer apple. "What is this common noise?" he shouted, standing up so fast his chair fell back. But Clara couldn't stop. The song poured out of her like water from a broken dam. In the music she put all her mother's pain, all her own fears, all her dreams of a better life. The small girl near the Duke smiled for the first time that night. Her eyes lit up like stars. "Enough!" The Duke's hand came down hard on a table. "Remove this peasant at once!" 2 men grabbed Clara's arms. Her violin fell to the floor with a crack that seemed to echo through the silent room. "Wait," said a deep voice. A tall man stepped forward from the shadows. His clothes were fine but simple. A small pin on his coat showed he was from a far-off land. "The girl has talent," he said, looking at Clara with kind eyes. "True music comes from the heart, not from a list." The Duke's face grew darker. "Lord Webber, this is not your concern. The girl was hired to play proper music, not this country nonsense." Clara stood tall despite her fear. "I'm sorry for breaking your rules, sir," she said to the Duke. "But I'm not sorry for the music." They took her outside into the cold night. No silver coins, no medicine for her mother. But as she walked away from the great house, Clara felt something new inside her chest. A small spark of pride that wouldn't die. 3 weeks after the ball, Clara sat in her aunt's small cottage at the edge of the forest. Aunt Mabel was not rich, but she had more books than anyone Clara had ever known. The cottage walls were lined with wooden shelves that bent under the weight of 100 volumes. "Your mother will get better with this," Aunt Mabel said, mixing herbs in a small clay pot. The smell of mint and honey filled the warm kitchen. "And you, dear girl, will heal too." Clara looked down at her hands. The tips of her fingers still hurt from playing for 10 hours the day before. Not for rich people now, but for herself and for her mother, who smiled when she heard the old songs. "I lost us the money we needed," Clara said softly. "You kept something more important," her aunt replied, tapping Clara's chest. "What's in here?" Day by day, Clara helped her aunt tend the garden and mix healing drinks. She read books about plants and stars and far-off places. Her mother grew stronger on Aunt Mabel's medicine. For the first time in years, Clara had time to think about more than just staying alive. One sunny morning, Aunt Mabel took Clara to the village market. Clara kept her eyes down, afraid people would know about her shame at the Duke's ball. "Look up, child," Aunt Mabel whispered. "You did nothing wrong." At the far end of the market, a small crowd gathered around a man showing strange tools and plants. It was Lord Webber, the man from the ball. He spoke with a voice that made people lean in to listen. "These leaves can help with pain," he explained, holding up a green plant. "I've seen them used by people in 3 different lands." When the crowd moved away, Aunt Mabel pulled Clara forward. "My lord," she said with a small bow, "this is my niece who knows much about local healing plants." Lord Webber's eyes lit up when he saw Clara. "The musician," he said with a warm smile. "I hoped I would find you again." In the days that followed, Lord Webber visited the cottage often. He showed Clara maps of his travels and listened carefully when she played her violin. Unlike the Duke, he never asked her to play songs she didn't feel. "Music and healing plants are not so different," he told her as they walked through the forest one afternoon. "Both can mend what is broken." Clara found herself talking more than she ever had before. Lord Webber asked about her ideas and listened like they mattered. When he laughed at her small jokes, the sound made her feel 10 feet tall. "Why did you stand up for me that night?" she asked him finally, as they sat by the stream near her aunt's house. The water bubbled over smooth rocks, making its own kind of music. "Because true things are rare," he answered, his voice soft. "Most people live behind masks, playing the songs others tell them to play." One evening a letter arrived at the cottage. The village was having a spring fair and they needed music. It would be Clara's first time playing in public since the ball. "You don't have to go," Aunt Mabel said. "I think I do," Clara replied, touching her violin case. The fear was still there, but something new burned beside it, a small flame of hope that felt like her own. The spring fair turned the village green into a sea of colour. 20 market stalls sold everything from sweet pies to handmade dolls. Children ran between them, their faces sticky with honey treats. Clara stood under an oak tree, her violin ready but her heart still unsure. "They're all waiting," Lord Webber said gently. He pointed to the wooden stage where a small sign read, "Clara Hill, Village Musician." "What if they laugh?" Clara whispered. "The Duke might be here. He owns all this land." "Then play for those who will listen," Lord Webber said, "not for those who won't." Clara stepped onto the stage. 50 pairs of eyes looked up at her. Simple folk who worked the land, not fine lords and ladies. She took a deep breath and began to play. The music started soft like a question. Then it grew strong and sure, telling the story of hard work and hope that all the village knew. Clara closed her eyes and let her heart speak through her fingers. When she finished, the silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then the clapping started. It rolled across the green like thunder. Children hopped up and down. Old men wiped their eyes. "Play another," they called. For 2 hours, Clara played songs that made people dance, and songs that made them remember. Her fingers moved without pain now, sure and free. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the grass, a fine carriage pulled up at the edge of the fair. The Duke of Westfield stepped out, his face hard as stone. "So this is where you've been hiding," he said, walking toward Clara as the crowd parted. "Playing your common tunes for common people." Clara held her violin tight. "I'm not hiding, Your Grace." The Duke looked around with a curl to his lip. "I hear you turned down the chance to play at Lady Oakwood's house again. 5 gold coins she offered, more than these people see in a year." "Some things cost more than gold," Clara said, her voice small but clear. "Like what?" the Duke asked with a laugh. "Like having to play songs that say nothing true," Clara answered. The Duke's face grew dark. "You're just a farmer's daughter. You have no place speaking to me this way." Lord Webber stepped forward. "She has every place. Clara's music has been written down and sent to the King's Music Hall in the city. They wish to hear her play next month." The Duke's mouth fell open. Clara looked at Lord Webber in shock. "Is that true?" she asked, when the Duke had stormed away. "Yes," Lord Webber said. "But there's more. I must return to my country across the sea in 1 month's time. I would like you to come with me." Clara's heart jumped in her chest. "As your musician?" Lord Webber took her hand. His eyes were warm and kind. "As my wife, if you would have me. Where I come from, we value the gift you have. You could study with the best teachers. Your music could heal many hearts." Clara looked around at the village where she had lived all her life, at her aunt who smiled and nodded, at her mother who stood tall now, healthy again. "I must choose," Clara said softly. "Yes," Lord Webber agreed, "but this time the choice is truly yours." That night Clara sat by her window. The moon shone on her old violin case and on the letter from the King's Music Hall. Two paths lay before her, one safe and known, one new and wide open. As dawn broke over the hills, Clara made her choice. The small church near the sea held just 30 people. Sunshine poured through the round window, making spots of red, blue and yellow light dance on the stone floor. Clara wore a simple white dress with tiny wildflowers in her hair. Lord Weber, Thomas as she now called him, waited for her with a smile that warmed her more than the spring sun. No gold plates or fancy food marked this day, just fresh bread and sweet berry pies made by the village women. Clara's mother cried happy tears. Aunt Mabel gave them a book of healing plants as a gift. When Clara played her violin for the guests, even the old priest tapped his foot. "Not at all like the Duke's ball," Clara whispered to Thomas as they danced. "No," he agreed, his eyes never leaving hers. "This is real." 2 weeks later, a big ship carried them across the wide sea. For 7 days, waves rocked them back and forth. Clara felt sick for the first 3 days, but spent the last 4 standing at the front of the ship, watching for her new home. The land Thomas came from had tall mountains that touched the clouds and deep green valleys filled with flowers Clara had never seen before. His home sat on a hill with 100 steps leading to the front door. Inside, books lined the walls just like at Aunt Mabel's cottage, but these rooms were big enough to hold 10 such cottages. "This was my father's music room," Thomas said, opening a door on the second day. Inside stood a beautiful black piano and space for Clara's violin. Large windows looked out over the valley where 5 small villages dotted the landscape like fallen stars. "All these people need a healer who knows plants," Thomas told her. "And they love music that speaks from the heart." Clara learned the new language word by word. She mixed old healing ways from home with new plants from this land. When she played her violin in the town square, people stopped to listen, their faces open and kind. 6 months passed in what felt like 6 days. Letters from home brought news that the Duke had lost much of his money and had to sell 3 of his big houses. Clara felt no joy in his troubles, but no sadness either. One clear fall day, as red and gold leaves covered the 100 steps, Clara sat in the music room. A letter had come that morning from the biggest music hall in this new land. They wanted her to play her songs for people who had never heard village music from across the sea. "Are you afraid?" Thomas asked, bringing her hot tea with honey. "No," Clara said, and she meant it. "Once I was afraid to play my true music. Now I'm only afraid of playing anything else." That night, as stars filled the sky outside their windows, Clara played a new song she'd written. It told the story of a girl who had once been told to stay in her place but found a bigger place waiting for her. When she finished, Thomas had tears in his eyes. "If you had played what the Duke wanted that night, we would never have met," he said softly. Clara nodded, touching the smooth wood of her violin. "What looked like my worst day turned out to be my best," she said. "Sometimes the music we're not supposed to play is the only music worth playing at all."